Sounds good.
Hello, everybody. We're back again today with another classic album song ranking. Here with JC from the flip side, Josh and Sam St. John. And they're holding it up. You can see what it is. It's Tom Petty's Full Moon Fever, 1989, first solo album by Tom. And a dandy, if I say so myself. 12 songs with the help of Jeff Lynne, of course, on the production. Real slick, smooth sounding album, in my opinion, very pop centric. It's very listenable, accessible to the public, just full of hit records and outstanding. I mean, he's coming off of Let Me Up, I've Had Enough, to me, which was one of his least effective albums. And this really put him back in the mainstream. And I think it was number 3 on the Billboard charts. It was a monster hit. And a lot of people's favorite to this day, at least a top 5 album for Tom, including the Heartbreakers and his solo work. So, guys, great to have Josh here again. This is the 3rd time Sam and I have worked with Josh. Go over and check his channel out. I want to congratulate him. I see he hit 4,000 subscribers. So awesome.
Thank you.
I just noticed that today. So awesome job, Josh.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
And he, we've done Bruce with you. We've done Petty and the Heartbreakers, of course, and now we're doing Petty solo. This is fun stuff for Sam and I to shoot the breeze and talk about the songs we love. So, Josh, what's your introduction to Tom? Because you're quite a bit younger than myself, but you're in between Sam and my age. So, when did you become a fan, and what about this album in particular?
So I think the last time I told the story of when I became a fan, I got Damn the Torpedoes for Christmas from one of my cousins. And, at that point, I only had 10 records. So it was always on the turntable. In terms of this album, like I was always a Petty fan. And back in 1989, I was still in high school. So buying albums were tight. It was like maybe I get one album every couple months, save up enough for my paper route until I got a job at Burger King to be able to buy more music. So I remember my dad saying like, I'm going to buy it. I'm like, yes. Cause like we would share albums and things like that. So he got it, and he actually got it on CD, which I did have a CD player, luckily. And I remember loving the album. I remember on the CD, what you don't get on the album, there's a little pause where it says, we're now going to pause for vinyl record or cassette
CD listeners.
CD listeners. It cracked me up. And it's just his sense of humor really showed through. And this really did, like you said, it catapulted him in a couple different ways. One, it brought his relationship with Jeff Lynne and eventually Traveling Wilburys, which I could tell you my family is obsessed with the Wilburys. Like they might as well be the Rolling Stones, if that's like our upper echelon of greatest bands. We're like the Wilburys. You know what I mean? Like most people be like, what? Like we love the Wilburys. And also Rick Rubin was never a Tom Petty fan until this album. And then he was obsessed with this album and started diving into Tom Petty's catalog. And that led down the road of Wildflowers, which I know one day we're going to tackle on this channel because you guys love me.
Absolutely.
I'm obsessed with that album. But yeah, that's my introduction to this album. I absolutely love it. I adore it. I love Tom Petty. It's not my favorite Tom Petty. It's probably number 3, maybe number 4, but it's definitely in the top 5.
Right. And Sam, you're the young kid on the block, so I know this is a gateway album for you, right? This has really opened a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, this was the gateway album. I think my dad got me this album when I was in high school. It was my first full-length Petty album other than the greatest hits. And obviously, with the greatest hits, you had 4 of these songs on that album. And I know this was kind of a controversial album because it was solo. And yet Mike Campbell was, of course, all over the record. They were kind of recorded it in a hands-on version in the garage. And I know there's a great story that Jeff Lynne's told about like how him and Petty met, like sitting at a stoplight, and they kind of saw each other and said, hey, let's make a record. And, then they put out the Wilburys album. They put out Into the Great Wide Open. So they worked together quite a bit on and off. And then, of course, later with Highway Companion. Absolutely love this album. It's one of my top 10 favorite records of all time. And even though I admit it's probably not the best Tom Petty album, it holds that sentimental place for me. Just some of the deeper cuts on here that I didn't know that weren't on the greatest hits really opened my eyes. I remember, and I'll talk about it when I get to the song, but I remember listening to Feel a Whole Lot Better and thinking that sounded like a song from the 60s, only to find out later on that it was, it was a bird song. And so stuff like that. I mean, just those little doorways that were opening up in my life. And I mean, this album really helped me through, 8th into 9th grade, 10th grade, those early years of high school where you're awkward and, you're losing the baby fat and you're kind of becoming your own person. So a lot of sentimental value with this album.
Yeah. Very well. So what we do always is there's 12 songs. Like I said, we're going to count them down 12 to 1. Josh will go first, and Sam and myself, and then we'll give the album an overall rating at the end. So let's dive into this and talk about these songs. Josh, what do you have at number 12?
My number 12 was easy. It was the easiest one, which is Zombie Zoo. I know Tom Petty says that he says his quote is saying he would have left it off the album. If he could remake the album, he would have left it off the album. And it's not that it's a bad song. It's just, it feels like a filler in an album full of amazing songs. It doesn't meet the same criteria. But if you listen to a lot of the Tom Petty unreleased tracks, some of the songs he left off the album or some of the songs he gave to other people are better than some of the songs on the album. I don't necessarily know if his producers had the wherewithal to be like, hey, Tom, this is a fantastic song and it's better than this one. But, Tom Petty was a hard person to argue with, I guess. So, yeah, Zombie Zoo, that would be my least favorite on the album.
Very good. Sam?
Early on, I would have probably agreed when I was doing my listening, like just thinking about the songs before actually, listening to it again. Zombie Zoo would have been my number 12, but it's not. And this is a song that I remember, like if my iPod was on, because this is back when I was putting everything that I owned onto my iPod, and this album was on it. And so I wasn't listening to things all the way through. It was on shuffle. And so whenever this song came on, I would skip it on my iPod. But if I'm listening to the album, I wouldn't. With that being said, the song is A Face in the Crowd. It's and again, I've said this in my videos. I'm probably of the minority that says that Tom Petty never made a bad song. I don't think there's such a thing as a bad Tom Petty song. And I've said it before, there are bad Bob Dylan songs, there are bad Beatles songs. But for me, I mean, even his silly stuff like Zero to Outer Space and stuff like that.
I love that song.
I think it's great stuff. And I mean, even all this stuff, Zombie Zoo, and A Face in the Crowd. But I think it just sounds maybe a little bit too modern for Tom Petty. But the slide guitar is kind of cool, the acoustic slide. But it just, that production, it doesn't sound really like Jeff Lynne. It doesn't really sound like Tom Petty. So that's probably why it's so low, is that it doesn't have that Petty sound to it, in my opinion.
Wow.
Great point.
Interesting. This is unusual because usually we have a lot of the similar songs, but we're going to have 3 different bottom feeders here. My last number 12 song is All Right for Now, which is kind of a lullaby tune. It's just definite change of pace. And it just does not work for me on this album. So that's the reason I put it last. I'm sure you guys obviously are going to like it a little bit better, but an easy number 12 for me.
Awesome. My number 11 is Mine with a Heart of Its Own. I feel like this would have been better as a Wilbury song. Like, I do enjoy the song quite a bit.
Yeah.
But when I hear it, it sounds like a Wilbury song. I just want Bob Dylan to chime in. I want Roy Orbison.
Yes.
Like, if they were trading vocals, I would love it. It'd be like, oh my God, this is a masterpiece. But it feels so much like a Wilbury song without the other guys. That's why it ranks so low.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
That's a great point.
Yep.
Number 11 for me is another song that, I never really think about it, and you don't hear it ever. It's Depending on You. I just think it's Petty could do better. The hook isn't that great to me, where he's, where he keeps repeating, baby, why don't you trust me?
Mm-hmm.
I've never been some clown, baby, why won't you trust me? It's just like he was just writing it like, here's 2.5 minutes that I can put on the album. Not a whole lot to it. I mean, good vocals. I like the drumming on it, and obviously the drumming was done by Petty and Lynn. I think Mike Campbell too. They all did the drumming. It's really just the three of them on the album, with some Benmont Tench sprinkled in on one track, I think. But it's never a track that I go back to. And again, one that, to me, there are 10 other songs that outdo it. So
Very good. My number 12 is Josh's number, or my number 11 is Josh's number 12. Gets it that right. Zombie Zoo. You gave the quote, he quote unquote, he told Rolling Stone magazine, "I hate Zombie Zoo. I don't know how that ever got on the album. We had better stuff that I didn't record. It's already been, it's a throwaway song, and it sounds like a throwaway song. And they stuck it at the last position on the album as a closer. It's just so on a great album. So that's why it's number 11.
Okay. My number 10 is going to be Depending on You. I do love that he says that line where he goes, "You give up so easily," for someone that never gave up. Like Tom Petty would never give up, never give in. So I always think to myself, what is giving up easily to Tom Petty? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a man that would have starved so his record company couldn't have got his record. You know what I mean? Like, it's an unwielding set of circumstances we're up against here, Tom, to compare ourselves with you. But I do feel like it is one of the weaker tracks on the album. That it does remind me, elements of Heartbreakers are on here. Where this album doesn't have a lot of Heartbreakers elements at times. So I do enjoy that aspect of it. It's probably why it ranked a little higher than the other two.
Number 10 for me, you all both mentioned it, is Zombie Zoo. And again, I'm surprised that I had it 3 notches down like that. But I've always thought it was a fun song. I love the line about, being so impulsive, you shaved off all your hair, you look like Boris Karloff, and he doesn't care. And for those of you all that don't know, Boris Karloff was known to be he was a monster movie star back in the old Hollywood, and was like the king of makeup and masks and things. And just a great line. And I think that some of the background on here, I think Roy Orbison is hidden somewhere in the vocals back in there. And I know Del Shannon kind of has a couple spots on the album, but just a fun song. You can tell Tom Petty, he didn't go in with the system. He didn't, everybody that was dressing goth and everything in the late 80s, he was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He's just so cool. So that's what he's saying. It's just his take on Hollywood in the 80s, and I love it. I think it's hilarious.
It is a fun song, but
Definitely
mediocre at best for the rest of these tunes. My number 10 is A Mind with a Heart of Its Own. Josh talked about it. It's got that little Bo Diddley riff in the beginning. It's a nice little jam, but it's borderline filler when it comes right down to it. It's just, I have a defining line on this album. I have 9 really strong songs and 3 that are and this is the best of the So the last 3 songs on this album are the last 3 songs on my list. I think it's a top-heavy album. Once you get to these last 3, there's a decline in quality for me. So that's where I'm going to put A Mind with a Heart of Its Own at number 10.
My number 9 is going to be Love is a Long Road. And I do enjoy this song quite a bit. I think that there's a part of me, which is revisionist history. Beaumont Tench mentions that he wasn't happy that they would have him come in and say, "Just play dun, 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 dun." And that really annoyed him. So now that I know that, I'm like, oh, poor Beaumont is totally pissed at this. Right? So the piano intro doesn't do it for me. But when those drums kick in, the guitars kick in, like 30 seconds in, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's like classic Petty. Like, thank you, Tom. And it's a fun song, and I really enjoy it. So other than the thoughts of Beaumont being miserable, like, I enjoyed the song.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first match. It's number 9 for me as well. Again, that intro is, it's what it is. Again, sounds like the times, but then they come with that heavy guitar. Boom, boom, boom. It's almost kind of sounds like the Who a little bit right there. That strum right there. And it just shows, how they could rock even with just the 3 guys. And Josh kind of, talked all about it with Benmont, just talking about, what he contributed and what he didn't. And again, with this whole album, that was the big chip on the shoulder because then the Heartbreakers went out and toured. Like Petty didn't tour solo.
Right.
So, I mean, the same thing happened with Wildflowers and then with Highway Companion. I mean, the Heartbreakers were always his guys. And so you can imagine, you're a band that have done so much up to this point. Then he puts out this album, which is the biggest of his career with, huge singles off of it. It was everywhere on the radio. It's still all over the radio. And, you're like, why am I playing these songs? This should be Tom Petty with Mike going out on the road as a duo. But, it's what it is. And it's number 9 for me.
Yeah, that's one I like a lot better than you guys. It's going to be pretty high on my list. My number 9 is Depending on You. So all three of us have touched on that at this point. I think it's a good little pop song. It's well crafted. It could have been a minor hit. I like the 12-string guitar in here and the solo. The drums or the drum beat's pretty prominent. And I just like the melody of it. All you gotta do is trust me. It's got that Petty hook that I like. And, like Listen to Her Heart and some of those other tunes where it's just it's a catchy, likable tone to me. But number 9, bottom half.
All right. My number 8 is All Right for Now, which is the most Wildflowers type of song on this album.
Yeah.
And I do totally understand what you're saying about where you marked it lower because it didn't really fit, right? It doesn't really fit in the album, but I do think that it's everything I love about Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Is a song like this. His lyrics are so beautiful, and here's a song that's so positive about love, where when we go to Wildflowers and Echoes, there's seeds of betrayal and seeds of insecurity, which and I love that about that. So this song wouldn't necessarily fit in with the overall themes of Wildflowers or Echo, but it fits in the type of song, and I love that. So yeah, and that's, I mean, on any other album it could have even ranked higher. It's just this album is so stacked with awesomeness.
Yeah, that's a good analysis. It would have fit in better with the theme of
Right.
Wildflowers in particular, but it's just missing those hooks and the catchiness that all of a sudden you're used to. Where's this thing going? And it drags down a little bit with the lullaby type of tune for me.
Right, because this is a pop album. Like I feel like Wildflowers is more of like a Birds or like a folk rock Bob Dylan type of album, and this is a pop album, which Tom Petty was fantastic at. And I don't mean that in a negative way when I say pop, but it's obvious by the amount of copies it sold and how many hits it had that it appealed to a mass audience. And this is the one song that you're right. I bet you if I played it for my girlfriend, she'd probably be like, can we skip this one and get to the happy music again?
Yeah. There's no doubt.
Yep.
It makes you wonder how involved Jeff Lynne was with that song, because the whole pop thing, Jeff Lynne was all about making hit records.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he still is with the albums that he still puts out. He still is trying to do quick hook, melody, chorus, songs over.
Right.
But anyway, number 8 for me is A Mind with a Heart of Its Own. Again, Rich, you mentioned the Bo Diddley, the bunk.
Yeah.
I love that whole thing about, where he talks about his middle name is Earl. I think that line is just one of the best. That's just one of my, if I had to list my top 10 favorite Tom Petty lines, that one might make the cut, just because I love it so much, where he's just like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let me throw this in there. My middle name is Earl, which it was. Great track. I mean, it's acoustic. It's one that I forget about, and I think I like it more instead of having a number, 12 or so, is because this song, even like if you listen to Tom Petty radio on Sirius XM, you don't really hear this song. So it's still kind of, in the vaults of the Tom Petty songs that make it out.
Yeah.
And I guess we should mention as well that some of the themes of this album, a lot of them probably have to do with Petty's, personal life, where, his house had burnt down during this time frame. So he's putting out all this positive music, with the exception of maybe a song like All Right for Now, which is more subdued. But he's just trying to get out of his head, this is all this stuff that's happening. He's on top of the world at this point with his fame. He's all over MTV.
Yep.
So I mean, you can imagine the strains that he was having, and come to find out, we find out later on in the book that came out about Tom Petty that it was getting close to this time where heroin was kind of making its way into the Heartbreaker fold with Petty and Howie Epstein. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
would say there's no telling what other demons were going through his head during this time.
Do you agree or do you disagree with my thought process where this would have been an excellent Wilbury song?
Oh, absolutely. I can definitely hear the trading of the vocals. That makes me want to hear it as a Wilbury song.
I agree 100%. Definitely.
I could hear George Harrison on the high harmony.
I know, and that's what killed. Why didn't he save this one? This would have been amazing. And I do love the song. I feel bad ranking it so low. It's just that every time I hear it now, I think, we need George.
I think that's when in like a Dylan harmonica in there. It would have been perfect.
It would elevate it big time for sure.
Oh my God, it would have been one of the biggest Wilbury songs, no doubt. It would have been fantastic.
Yeah. My number 8 is the cover, Feel a Whole Lot Better. Cover of the Byrds tune, written by Gene Clark in 1965. It's very close to the original to me. This is an homage to the band that Petty's sound is really aligned with. An excellent cover. I mean, you can't get around it. They nailed it. Just totally awesome. I love the song, but because it's a cover, it's going to take a little back step to some of the original material for my taste on the album. So that's why it's at number 8. But you listen to this, man, it's killer. That's all I'm going to say. I'll let you guys talk about it when you get to it. It's a wonderful cover.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome cover. My number 7 is Face in the Crowd. And I can tell you that it's ranked so high because there's such a beautiful line. Tom Petty has these great lines, but he says, out of a dream, out of the sky, into my heart, into my life. And I notice about the song structure on this compared to like Wildflowers or some of these other albums where he would have so many, his lyric pages, sheets were like, with these songs, they're more compressed. Like it's like, just a few lyrics and then the chorus, right? It's like few lyrics, chorus. And I think Jeff Lynne was like, made his songs very compressed in that way, but very digestible. Because maybe if it was a longer song, I wouldn't like it as much. But Face in the Crowd is my number 7. And really that line kills me every time I hear it.
Yeah, Jeff Lynne definitely had an influence on, like you said, the compressed, concise structure, the structure of the song. Even you listen to Do You Want My Love or any of these ELO songs, and that's the way he wrote his songs. Just,
right.
Little stanza, chorus, just the hook.
Yeah.
And it works. It's like an earworm. It stays with you. And that's this album. It really is.
Totally. And it's so great because it's a contrast to what we had before.
Yep. All right.
Number 7. We just talked about it. Josh did 2 songs ago. It's All Right for Now. Just again, a beautiful ballad. I love the false intro where he counts it in. All right, he goes, all right, 1, 2, and then the do. It's just one of those that I noodle with on the guitar all the time. And great observation that it's kind of going in that direction that Petty would get in with the next solo album, because between this and Wildflowers, they just did one other album. And it was essentially trying to copy this with Into the Great Wide Open. It was Jeff Lynne plus the Heartbreakers.
Right.
But you wouldn't know the Heartbreakers were even on that album. But no, All Right for Now, I just think it's beautiful. I love the little bridge, so close your eyes, we're all right. And then he goes, for now.
Yeah.
It's just that phrasing, it's that Dylan phrasing that he has, down to a T. And absolutely, I love the guitars. I think there might be a couple different live versions of this on YouTube. It wasn't done often, but I think he did it later on. He might have even done it when he was at the Beacon Theater in 2014 when he was doing deeper cuts.
Nice.
Just a beautiful song. I love it. I think it's one of his best ballads.
My number 7 is the Apartment Song. This is a nice little gem, real tight little rock and roll song. I really enjoy it. And anybody that's lived alone or in an apartment can relate to the lyrics. And I like the little hooks. I'm okay most of the time. I just feel a little lonely tonight. And then they, oh yeah, I'm all right. And it's just another catchy, hooky kind of pop song. And it's sweet. It's got a killer little piano at the end, and it's got that real sped up drum thing in the middle there, where the tempo's increased a little bit, like a rat tat tat tat. And excellent song, the Apartment Song.
It's very Peggy Sue kind of there in the middle.
Yeah.
Very Crickets.
It's old time rock and roll. It really is.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. My number 6 is Feel a Whole Lot Better. It's a stone cold masterpiece. I mean, it is a masterpiece. And I think that this song gave me great strength at periods of my life where even if it's a false sense of strength, like your heart's broken, you're miserable, but you're like, I feel a whole lot better when you're gone. It's okay, I'm fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like every man's felt this way, and there's probably part of their heart that's telling them, dude, you're a mess. But there's another part that's like, you know what? Now you're gone, things are going to be a lot better. And it's just a masterpiece. And I know Tom Petty had such great affection for the song, and he did it tremendous justice. I feel like just a great cover and a great love letter to the original.
Awesome. Yep.
Well, this is where the first shocker of the night comes in.
Here it comes.
I suppose. But I mean, hey, it's in the top 6. What can you do? And sole reason is because it's overdone. That's it. And it's Free Falling. It's my number 6. I mean, when you're an acoustic guitar player, it's like one of the first popular songs that you teach yourself. That's like the go-to one that you pull out when you're trying to impress people. Like, hey, look what I can play. And it's, just 3 chords. And they're all around the key of the D shape on the guitar. And I mean, it's an absolute perfect song. I mean, there's a reason that it was a sing-along favorite. I mean, it's anthemic. It can fill a stadium. It was, all over his obituary when he died, Free Falling songwriter Tom Petty.
Yeah.
He gets that upper register of his voice. It's a very late 80s music video that goes along with it. They're in, California with the skateboarders and the mall. And I love the background vocals, the like the Jeff Lynne in the background. And then I love how at the end, I want to glide down over Mulholland. The drums are kind of like this marching band drums. I mean, again, it's crazy that he's in the Heartbreakers, and then one of the biggest songs that he does is Free Falling, and like that's one like people go to Breakers, but they say I hope he plays Free Falling because it's all over the radio. It's still over the radio. John Mayer brought it back into the popular light when he did his slower acoustic ballad version of it, which I love. John Mayer gets a lot of flack, but I love John Mayer, and I mean, it's a masterpiece of a song, but it's number 6 because I can turn my radio on right now in my car and it's on. And there's reason for it, but that's where it stands.
You don't have to explain yourself, man. My first list, it was number 8.
I feel better.
Yeah, you should feel better. I talked myself out of it, though. We'll get to it.
I think I might have too.
My number 6 is You're So Bad. Another a great song, very folky rock. It's like a rockabilly kind of tune. It's got the humorous lyrics to me, melodic, just irresistible. I like the lyric here. My sister's ex-husband can't get no loving, walks around dog-faced and hurt. That line, dog-faced, is just killer. Nobody else has used that in a song that I know of. Now he's got nothing, head in the oven. I mean, it just works. It flows beautifully, and the instrumental part is awesome too. And you hear Patty going, yeah, it's just a jam. It's a fun song, and you can't help singing along with it when it's on. I think it's my wife's favorite song off this album, by the way. You're So Bad.
Yeah. It's my sister's favorite song in the album, and it ranks high in mine. My number 5 is going to be Free Falling for all the reasons that You said, Sam. I love the song. I think it's a masterpiece. It is a stone cold masterpiece. And if it wasn't played all over the radio, it'd probably be a lot of people's number one, right? You have to take out Burnout Factor. And I've just heard it so many times, but it doesn't take away from the brilliance of the song. And when I originally did my list and it was number 8, I was like, you're an idiot, Josh. People are going to think you're stupid. So yeah, it does rank number 5, but it is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
My number 5 will be Rich's number 6, You're So Bad. If anybody ever catches my live streams when I play music, this is a go-to song for me to play on guitar. I'm hopefully, if it follows well, I'll be playing it, at a gig at the end of October. But I mean, I love the song. I love the opening, ooh, and then that up strum on the minor chord. It's a hilarious video. It doesn't make any sense. With like the natives dancing like in a house that's being built. The guy with the blow up doll. It's all crazy, wild Tom Petty humor.
Yeah.
Again, the whole line about being a yuppie. That's such a Southern line.
Yeah.
Again, Tom Petty's from Florida, and so these city folks, they're the yuppies, and it's just classic Petty. He talks about his head's in the oven, just crazy rhymes that he has, and it's just a great line. And it's my best friend. It's his favorite song from the album as well. He has a funny top 2 favorite Tom Petty songs. He loves You're So Bad, but he also loves Girl on LSD.
I love that song. Love that song.
Hilarious song from Wildflowers era. But number 5, You're So Bad.
Love it too.
My number 5 is Free Fallin'. You guys have covered it. I know you're surprised because I usually go for the biggies.
That was a surprise.
This is beat to death. I mean, and it's worthy of being beat to death because it's the classic and it's one of his most famous songs. But I don't know. I'm played out with it, and I could go a couple of years without hearing it, and then when I hear it again, I'll say, goddamn, that's a great song. It's very much an LA song, mentioning Reseda and Ventura Boulevard and Mulholland Drive and the Valley, all those little, geographic locations in Los Angeles. The girl, the blonde watching the skater boys on the half pipe going back and forth on the video. And it gives you that free falling, I'm free. Well, the video works in the context of the song. It's so laid back, but I love everything about it except the overplayedness. You don't hear me say that all that much, but it had to make the top 5. I put it at number 5.
So for me, might seem a strange choice that's ranked so high, but my number 4 is going to be the Apartment song. And there's a reason, not to get too personal, but I'll break it down to you guys. So I definitely think at one point in my life, I hit rock bottom, right? It was definitely stone cold rock bottom. I'd sold my record collection to get out of a toxic situation. And for the first time in decades, I found myself alone. Like I had my son Carter, but he was only with me on Friday, Saturdays, Sundays. So I found myself alone with very few records. I didn't sell Tom Petty. I didn't sell Tom Waits. I didn't sell Lucero, my 3 favorite bands. And this song, the Apartment song, where he goes, I'm all right. I just feel a little lonely tonight. I had realized that there is only one rock bottom. When you hit it, from there, it's all up.
Right.
And coming to the realization that something that you cared for deeply is over. Once you realize that and you say okay, well now it's time to get myself up. And I use this song as a motivating factor. I am all right. I'm just a little lonely. I recognize that I'm lonely, but I am all right. I have people that care for me. I have people that love me. I have my son that loves me. And from that moment on, it got better and better. So this song always puts a smile on my face. It makes me think I'm going to go through points of loneliness. I go through points of loneliness and I have a girlfriend downstairs. It happens. You know what I mean? And I just love that about Tom Petty. There's not too many artists that resonate with me as much as Tom Petty that can get all my feelings out. I said to Rich, man, us record collectors are sensitive people. And I think that's why we all love Tom Petty, or the majority of us love Tom Petty.
No doubt.
I just feel like I'm a sensitive person. But yeah, and that's why it ranks so high. It definitely has a human connection with me.
Perfectly said.
Well said. Number 4, another one of the big boys on the album, Running Down a Dream. Talking about, Mike Campbell being an underrated lead guitarist. That dude's never talked about. I mean, obviously, different styles. I mean, you always hear, about Eddie, and you always hear about, there's heavyweights, Randy Rhoads, Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, like the big guys. But Mike Campbell just slides in there. But listen to Running Down a Dream and listen to that extended solo at the end. And I'm pretty sure like that solo kept going for several minutes after the tape faded. I think there's an extended version on the American Treasure set. I'm not 100%, but from what I understand, that was just one take. That they just said, Mike, do your thing. They turned it on. He lit into it. And fun fact, when I was in high school, we were all assigned for like a senior send-off party. We all had to submit some photos and have a song put with the photos. And this was my song that I had my senior year of high school. So it's always got that special place. Because I went to a very small, kind of a closed-minded private school. And so everybody had like these, like, mushy kind of songs and, very sheltered kind of songs. And then I was like, I've got to throw in some Tom Petty. So I put it in there and it was just killer. Like, I remember like being in the room, like when the video showed like at the party, and I was like, yeah, I'll pick that. So I've always got a special place. It always takes me back to being 18. And I mean, it's probably Mike Campbell's shining moment with the Heartbreak. I mean, with Tom Petty, and he still nails it. He's still doing it with the Dirty Knobs, with his current band. So I mean, what can you say? It's one of the hardest rocking songs Petty ever did.
Absolutely, man. And you just made me smile. We would have been best friends in school. I can tell. My sister was kind of a preppy. She was a little prissy, but she liked a lot of hard rock. And she's like, I need to bring a song into school. I'm like, bring Aerosmith. And she's like, oh no, all my friends are bringing like Whitney Houston. I'm like, bring Aerosmith. All these metalheads were walking up to her like, I didn't know you liked metal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. My number 4 is A Face in the Crowd. I love the song. I like the ambience of it. I love it's kind of haunting in a way. It's a less is more song. It's just sort of a flowing song. And I can relate to the lyrics. Most people can. It's one of them things where you maybe catch somebody's eye in the crowd, or you could be at a mall, or you could be in a library or anywhere. And you just make eye contact with somebody and they're just a face in the crowd. You know you're never going to see them again, but it's a moment. And I think that's what that song means to me. And you're imagining, like, you're just looking at them going, wonder what they're like. I know I'm never going to meet them, this and that. And it's just one of them things that in a 3-minute song, all these things are going through your mind. And I think Patty was saying that he's playing and he's maybe making contact with a chick in the front row, and she's just a face in the crowd. And the music, it's very low key, but it's cool as hell. And it's a song that I would never skip. I really enjoy it. So it's going to be number 4 for me.
Awesome. My number 3, the top, I mean, all of these are masterpieces, but I mean, what can I say? I mean, I apologize if anyone, this is your favorite, but I love it. It's I Won't Back Down, which I think is just such an anthem. It is Tom Petty to the T.
Yep.
Maybe it's slightly overplayed and that's why it's number 3. It could easily be my number 1. But man, there's no other song that epitomizes Tom Petty than I Won't Back Down. I mean, he is the king of not backing down, and I love it. It's a masterpiece. That's it.
Yep.
Number 3, if I were to base my rankings solely on how much I enjoyed the tracks, this might be my number 1. But Rich mentioned earlier, because it's the cover, I had to put it at number 3, just because Petty's such a prolific writer, and it's obviously feel a whole lot better. You've all talked about it. It's Petty's roots, the jangle pop. Yep. They really don't go away from the original, other than really the title. The Birds version is called I'll Feel a Whole Lot Better.
Yeah.
But I mean, it sounds so much like Petty. Like I mentioned at the beginning in the intro, I thought it was a Tom Petty song that just sounded, old, kind of like, you know, An American Girl or Listen to Her Heart.
Yeah.
I mean, Petty could have written it easy.
Yeah.
And, you know, they did it live up until the end. Mike Campbell, again, he's still doing it because that's how important the song was, not just to Petty, but to Campbell and to the rest of the guys. And yeah, I mean, it's a perfect jangle pop song. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, my number 3 is probably the most underrated track on here because the two in front of them are well known. It's Love Is a Long Road. I love this song. I like Tom's vocal on this, where he emphasizes it's a long, long road. And boom, jams it. A great guitar solo again by Mike Campbell, who I agree is one of the more underrated guys out there. I guess I can only hope for maybe one more chance and try to save my soul. He says,
Yeah.
You know, that's a good line. Sometimes when you think all is lost in love, you got to play the long game. You got to wait it out, man. You got to. Josh and I were talking a little bit about this before we came on about the ups and downs, because I mentioned I've been married 32 years, and there's a reason for it, because you're going to go through some pits and some peaks and valleys, and you got to play the long game. You got to, if you care about the person, you'll find a way to make it work. And I think Love Is a Long Road. That's what this song is to me. And the guitar solo, killer, and it's just a great Petty tune. I think it could be a Heartbreakers tune too, not necessarily more like a Jeff Lynne song, but great nonetheless. I put it up pretty high for me, number 3.
Awesome. My number 2 is You're So Bad. It's just awesome. Like, it's just awesome. It's an absolutely incredible song, and his lyrics are just classic Tom Petty. They put a smile on your face.
Yep.
I don't know how you can't hear that song and not smile. It's everything I love about Tom Petty. You're So Bad, my number 2.
Great one.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, this was my number 1 up until this afternoon. And again, it all comes down to, you know, how I'm feeling in the mood and my current mood with some things that have been going on. Switch this one to number 2, and it's the Apartment song.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the song. It's, again, another one that I play on guitar all the time. Easy, you know, just a couple of chords. The like Rich said, it's early rock and roll. It's got those elements of Buddy Holly, maybe some Elvis thrown in there. Simple lyrics. And I mean, Josh nailed it in his description, so I won't really add much to it. But to me, as a side note, I think probably the best version of this is when it was the original duet with him and Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
Which they still play on Tom Petty radio all the time. And whenever I hear that and then hear the album version, I'm like, where's Stevie? Like, it's perfect because her voice goes so high. She's like, I just feel a little lonely tonight. Yeah. It's just it's so good. I mean, she was all over the Heartbreakers during this era too. And I think it would have been cool to have her on there, especially with his first solo album, but she's not. But it's number 2.
It's on American Treasure, that version.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. My number 2 is Running Down a Dream. This is flat out the best rock song on the album. I mean, it just rocks. The guitar by Campbell is first rate. I love the Del Shannon reference, a little Runaway.
Yeah.
Throws that in there too, which is cool. It's a great driving around song, and the car blasting it, you know, running down it. You can just air it out, and a great headphone song. It's just a great one. And I've seen Petty, 6 times in concert? Yes, 6. Always a fan favorite in concert. This one, you know, as soon as that guitar starts, everybody's up, and it just brings people to their feet. It's a lot of people's favorite Petty because it rocks hard, but it comes in number 2 for me on this particular album.
All right, my number 1. As you can tell, I'm a rocker. With Randy Rhoads up there. You guys know I'm a rocker. I had to go with Running Down a Dream. I mean, it's such a rocking song. Holy cow. And Mike Campbell, like you said, I mean, I will scream it to the end of my life that Mike Campbell is underrated. He's such a fantastic guitarist. And this song rocks. It makes the hair on my arms stand up. Like when it gets to that song, I can never get sick of it because it just straight up rock. I love the Del Shannon because I remember being a kid and my dad being like, well, let's go listen to Del Shannon, you know, and he put on that record. We heard Runaway, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. And it was a bonding moment with me and my dad. So yeah, oh my God, You guys knew I was going to pick that, man. I have to pick the
I would have bet serious money on that. Absolutely.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I love it.
Awesome.
Well, it looks like our last video, Rich and I agree on number one. And again, I was struggling with choosing between this and the Apartment song, but I won't back down. And again, it fits some things that I'm currently going through. And I listened to it again today while I was working, and I was like, yeah, I've got to make that switch. That song is just, and again, it's on the radio a lot. It is one of those songs that's played all the time. And, you know, it is probably one of those that if I went a couple of years and didn't hear it, it'd be okay. But whenever I hear it in the right moment, it always hits. And I remember when Petty died, the viral video going around at the University of Florida at the football stadium when they played this song from the PA, and all the students and the fans sang. They played almost the whole song, and I'm like, man, that just shows, you know, that song at that point was, you know, 25 years old or so. And I mean, what can you say? It's Petty's anthem. Again, Josh mentioned it earlier. As many times as Petty stood up to everybody, he was always the underdog. He was always, you know, coming out, you know, guns blazing. And this is Petty's mantra. And, you know, it'll always be one of my favorites. And I think I remember the first time that I ever heard the song was at one of the 9/11 tribute concerts, and they did the really slow version. I'd never heard the song before, and I remember being a young kid thinking like, that sounds like an old Tom Petty song, and obviously it was, but I remember just that slow acoustic version of it was just beautiful, and I'll still go back to that from time to time. But yeah, Rich, you can add your thoughts.
Well, I can't really add much to it, but you guys both did such a great job. It is his anthem. It's everything he's all about. And personally, I love songs that are me against the world. It gives me strength. It's a catharsis. No matter what it is, there ain't no easy way out. That's Patty saying, right. There ain't no easy way out. I'm going to stand my ground in a world that keeps pushing me around, you know, and I won't back down. I mean, what more is there to say? You know, this is a guy that's just coming off his house being burned to the ground by an arsonist, and you know, and he's feeling rage, you know, why me, that type of thing. And you can apply this to life, whether you're going through a serious illness or addiction or divorce, or you lose your job or whatever it is, you know, string of bad luck. You can just, I'm not going to back down. You're going to embrace hope, keep plugging away. It is an anthem. It's a great sing-along song in concert, which I've experienced. And just everything about a Tom Petty song that you want to hold in high esteem. And that's where it's at for me. It's easy number one. That's the song that I play a lot. Let's put it that way. It means a lot to me.
Awesome.
So that was really cool. We were all over the place for a while, but I think the best, and a lot of these are personal too. You got to take, like Josh, you know, he's a rocker and he's going to take that with him all the way. And Sam with the Apartment song, it almost was number one, but situations arose, he flip-flopped them. You know, these are personal songs, and that's what we do. So
great. And I think that's the great thing about Tom Petty and why I love him so much is that his lyrics can resonate with me and can give me strength. And you know, you think about this is like Tom Petty went through some terrible shit. You know what I mean? Like to me, he's like a god, right? And it's like, okay, well, he's just as human as me, right? Like we've both been through it. And he wrote these songs for the people. You know, I heard a great story about Tom Petty that his, you know, Tom Petty's daughter was visiting him with the baby, and they left the binky behind. And she goes, "Oh, Dad, I left the binky behind." And he hopped in his car and drove 2 hours in the middle of the night to bring the binky. And she goes, "Dad, to do this, it was a binky."
Yeah.
But like Tom Petty was just like, you know, he wanted to be a normal granddad. You know what I mean? Like, and I think, you know, he was just had this enormous talent. His daughter said, "Dad, you're a unicorn." And he goes, "What do you mean by that?" And she goes, "You bring happiness to millions of people." There's only a few people in the world that can do that, you know? And yeah, he was a unicorn, you know, but also a grandfather.
His music is generally very happy music. You feel good listening to it. and he's talking to the everyday Joe, in plain terms. It's not fancy lyrics like Dylan. These are straightforward lyrics that everybody can relate to, and that's why people love them so much.
Yeah, very easy to understand.
Really easy to understand.
Now, I know you guys are going to ask me the ranking, right?
Yeah,
It's
we have
1
to.
out of 5 or 1 out of 10. What are we doing?
We're doing 1 to 10. 10 being a masterpiece, 1 being horrible.
Okay, so even though this album is far from perfect for me, I'm gonna give it a 10 because of the items on it that are so amazingly stellar.
Yeah.
And the greatest songs in his catalog. It trumps the ones that are less than stellar. So I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 because I just feel like it's a stone cold masterpiece. It would easily rank in one of my greatest albums of all time. So 10 out of 10.
That's fair. What about you, Sam?
Well, Josh kind of hit it on the head there where he said, it is a far from perfect album. I mean, really for me, 12, 11, and 10 are okay songs. They're not terrible because, again, I've made that clear. But I agree with Josh. I'm going to give it a 10, which I don't do much, but it's in my top 10 favorite albums of all time. And I consider every album my top 10, a 10 out of 10. And, over time, other Petty albums that I enjoy listening to more, probably. But this one just holds that spot sentimentally. And so I think it'll always be a 10.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9.5 because it's close, but a couple of those tunes, the last 3 in particular, are not top notch in my book for Petty, but they're still listenable and still worthy, except for Zombie Zoo being on the album. I'll agree with Tom Petty.
Yeah. You guys are gonna really have to dig deep for me to dislike a Tom Petty album.
Yeah. We won't do it when we hit Wildflowers. That's going to be another 10 for you.
Oh, yeah, you don't even know for Wildflowers. You don't even know.
I can't wait to do that. We'll get to that down the line. We want to bring you back. I want to do Darkness on the Edge of Town too, Josh.
I would love Darkness. Oh man, I could do Darkness, Nebraska easily. Would love to.
I think the next time you come back, I think we'll do Darkness and then we'll do Wildflowers after that. We'll do the Petty, Bruce Petty.
I like it.
If you don't mind, just to break it up,
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it. I love being on your channel. Both of you guys are fantastic. You're
Thank you.
Awesome members of the VC, and these videos are. I get excited every time you ask me to join. So don't hesitate to ask me.
Oh, we won't, believe me. We appreciate you coming on. So that's JC, Josh from the Flip Side Vinyl. Please check his channel out. 4,000 subscribers. He's just blowing the field away right now, and deservedly so. If you want information and concise quality videos, go see Josh. He's doing the right thing in the VC, and everybody knows it. So that's the thing about it. I don't know anybody that doesn't watch his channel. Sam St. John, of course, great guy, great channel. We've been doing this is number 19 in our series of classic album song rankings. We'll be back again soon with another. So for everybody out there, thank you very much for watching. Leave your comments, leave your Tom Petty favorites, and we appreciate you watching. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye.